Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure being here. It's a great pleasure being in this place in the Bavarian representation to the EU. And thank you, DEKRA, thank you very much for your kind invitation, but also for your consistent leadership. You are one of those institutions that are really doing work evidence-based for road safety, which is crucial. And of course, I thank DEKRA for your support to ETSC's work. My name is Walter Eichendorf, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the ETSC, the European Transport Safety Council. And for those of you that are not familiar with our work, we are the independent, non-profit organization dedicated to road safety, and that means dedicated to reducing death and severe injuries on European roads. We bring together experts, research, and advocacy to make sure that EU and national policies remain focused on saving lives. And if you look on this number, you see that last year 20,017 people lost their lives on Europe's roads. That is 20,017 individual stories, parents, children, friends, colleagues, people who still should be with us today. Behind every statistics, there is a human loss, and this must remain at the heart of every discussion we have about transport and mobility. And beyond those deaths, you see a number that more than 110,000 people were seriously injured. And I guess most of you know this number is not true. It is still heavily underreported, so the true number is considerably higher. And these are people whose lives have changed forever, with long-term physical, psychological, and financial consequences. And the ripple effects, they extend across families and across communities. And that, of course, means our vision, our long-term objective is clear. Vision Zero by 2050. That means no death and no severe injuries on European roads. Interesting enough, the EU has set an ambitious but achievable goal for 2030, as you see down there, namely to halve the number of deaths and severe injuries by 2030 compared to the 29 level. But this is the reality. And the reality is sobering. The data show that progress has stalled. If we continue at the current pace that you are seeing here, we will definitely not reach the 2030 target. We must redouble our efforts, and we must do it now. Each year of delay will cost thousands of lives. Some people in some countries are showing strong leadership, and they are achieving steady reductions in death. If you look on the very left, you see Lithuania, Poland, Slovenia. They should be proud of what they have achieved during the last 5 years. But in the other countries, progress has stagnated or if you look on the right, even reversed. And this disparity within the EU reminds us that EU action, EU coordination, and EU accountability remains essential. This video shows that we really made a fantastic and enormous progress over the past decades. Fewer people are getting killed on the road. Seat belts and safer vehicles saved countless lives. And even speed management is becoming more accepted than it was in the past. But we have the knowledge, we have the tools, we have the experience, but we simply must get it on the road. And here are our key priorities for the years ahead. Prepare the revision of the vehicle safety regulation, earmark EU funds specifically for road safety in the next budget. And then a very important point, establish a dedicated EU road transport agency. Require periodical technical inspections for all motorcycles. And crucially, right now, defend EU safety standards in international trade negotiations. I want to speak a little bit more about the last three. I guess most of you have seen this headline in Euronews from August. Road safety, a victim of the trade agreement with Washington? With a question mark. Let me be clear, it must stay as a question mark. Road safety must not become a casualty of transatlantic trade negotiations. The EU needs to stand firm and protect the high standards that have saved thousands of lives. This summer, President von der Leyen and President Trump announced a new trade agreement to reduce US tariffs on EU cars and EU tariffs on American industrial goods. Trade negotiations can bring economic profits, but not if it compromises public safety. And in August 21, the joint statement, US and EU, included this worrying line. With respect to automobiles, the United States and the European Union intend to accept and provide mutual recognition to each other's standards. That may sound technical to some people, but it would open in practice the door to really unsafe vehicles entering the EU market. And you see that here. This comparison, I think, says it all. A pickup on the left, type approved under EU law, must meet many advanced safety requirements for crash prevention, for pedestrian safety, for driver assistance systems. But on the right, a US self-certified truck does not have to meet these requirements. And therefore, I must say, we do not want these vehicles on our road. And already thousands of them are slipping into the EU using the individual vehicle approval loophole. That is stupid because individual vehicle approval should mean 1 and 1 and 1. And in fact, the number is more than 1,000 per year. and nobody believes that this is really done individually. But if mutual recognition is carried out, as the US administration wants it, we would see a flood of these cars. That is why ETSC has built a strong coalition of organizations across Europe, road safety groups, consumer organizations, vehicle safety organizations, safety experts, all united to defend the EU standards. Together, we published this open letter in Financial Times under the headline, "Brussels can't give ground on vehicle safety standards." We must not allow short-term trade interests to undermine decades of progress in saving life. But there are also lessons we can learn from the United States. For example, this recent investigation into Tesla's full self-driving crashes showed the importance of an independent oversight. In the US, we have the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that plays this role. In Europe, there is no equivalent agency for road or vehicle safety. And that brings me to the next point. A dedicated road safety transport agency in the EU could coordinate testing, approval, monitoring of automated driving systems, and many more. It could even provide independent advice on emerging safety technologies. And more broadly, such an agency could oversee constant supervision of vehicle safety systems and technology, and they could provide independent recommendations to the Commission and to member states. Funny enough, we have EU agencies for aviation, for maritime, and for rail, but none for the road. This is an anomaly which we can no longer afford, especially in the age of automation, in the age of over-the-air software updates, and complex cross-border systems. Let's now turn to my last topic, which has already been mentioned in the statement of the Bavarian minister, the roadworthiness and periodic technical inspection legislation, which is currently being debated. Our main concern is simple. You can see it here, and it is serious. 72% of the EU motorcycles, namely those under 125 cubic centimeters, would not be required to have periodic inspections. The Commission has only proposed to mandate checks for those over 125, that are those 28%. But motorcyclists are one of the most vulnerable road users, and we must ensure that technical defects from unchecked vehicles do not cost lives. In this slide, you can see what the Commission has proposed and what we think about it. As I just said, excluding millions of motorcycles under 125 cc from regular testing is a clear mistake. The regulation should be extended to cover the whole category. But at the same time, we strongly support several positive elements of the proposal. Older vehicles above 10 years should have annual inspections. That has also been mentioned in the minister's speech, but if you look in many of the European countries that do not have the annual inspections, you see for cars of the age 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, that the failure in the inspection is very high. In Germany, 12-year-old cars have a situation that more than 50% of them do not pass inspection. And that tells you that it is better being done every single year. New safety technologies, including automation features, should be subject to regular checks. We need the future proof of the inspections. And the last point on the slide is also crucial. Roadside inspections of commercial vehicles must include vans and cargo security. I can only hope that we can count on your support in defending these improvements through the legislative process which is coming. To conclude, I want to return to the key points for tonight. Europe must get back on track to meet the 2030 safety targets. We must defend our world-leading vehicle safety standards in trade negotiations. And we need a dedicated European road transport agency to ensure consistent oversight in the age of automation. And we must ensure that all motorcycles and all the older cars on our roads are subject to regular safety checks. Let us remember every measure, every policy, every regulation is not about something technical. It is about people's lives. Thank you once again, DEKRA, for your partnership, the Bavarian representation for hosting us, and to all of you for your commitment to safer roads in Europe.